What if the act of birth was protected by divine spirits? Imagine a world where every cry of a newborn and every pulse of a mother's heart during labor was watched over by powerful benevolent forces, unseen yet deeply present. In many African cultures, this is not just imagination. It is a reality woven into the very fabric of life. Across the continent, stories of goddess midwives, spiritual entities entrusted with the sacred act of childbirth, have persisted for centuries. These divine figures are more than myth. They are revered guardians, embodiments of life itself and protectors of both mother and child during one of the most vulnerable moments a human can experience. From the banks of the Niger River to the coastal shores of West Africa, these goddess midwives hold a unique place in both spiritual and social life. Unlike the midwives we know today, whose skills are honed through practice and training, the African goddess midwives are believed to possess powers that transcend the physical world. They ensure not only the safe delivery of life, but also the spiritual well-being of families. Their presence is invoked in prayers, rituals, and offerings, illustrating a worldview where the boundary between the earthly and the divine is fluid, and where birth is recognized as a sacred intersection of human and cosmic forces. The stories of these spirits are as diverse as the cultures that honor them. Some are fierce and commanding, warding off malevolent forces that threaten the newborn. Others are gentle and nurturing, whispering guidance to midwives and mothers alike, ensuring that life emerges safely into the world. Their influence extends beyond the moment of birth. They are seen as custodians of growth, health, and the continuity of lineage, reminding communities of the preciousness of life and the responsibility to protect it. Yet, despite their profound importance, many of these goddess midwives remain unknown to the wider world. Their tales survive primarily through oral tradition, passed down from one generation to the next, often intertwined with rituals, songs, and proverbs that encode their power and wisdom. In exploring the lives and legends of these divine midwives, we not only uncover the spiritual richness of African societies, but also gain insight into universal human concerns, the mystery of birth, the reverence for life, and the search for protection and guidance in moments of vulnerability. Across African societies, midwives have long been revered as pillars of both community health and spiritual guidance. Their work goes far beyond the physical act of assisting in childbirth. They serve as custodians of knowledge, tradition, and ritual, bridging the worlds of the tangible and the mystical. In many regions, the midwife is entrusted not only with ensuring the safe delivery of a child, but also with maintaining the balance of spiritual forces that govern fertility, pregnancy, and life itself. Their skills are often a blend of inherited wisdom, hands-on experience, and an intimate understanding of the natural world, including medicinal herbs, massage techniques, and timing based on lunar or seasonal cycles. This combination of practical expertise and spiritual insight establishes midwives as central figures in the preservation of life and community well-being. In West Africa, for example, midwives are often regarded as both healers and ritual specialists. They understand the intricate knowledge of herbal remedies that ease labor, strengthen the mother, and protect the newborn. Yet their role is never purely medical. They are seen as interpreters of omens, dreams, and spiritual signs that could indicate challenges in pregnancy or birth. In some Yoruba communities, midwives are guided by ancestral spirits or divine intuition, a recognition that childbirth is not merely a biological process but a sacred event intertwined with cosmic forces. Similarly, among the Akan people of Ghana, midwives are consulted for their wisdom in safeguarding the mother and child, performing ceremonies that honor the spirits of life and ensure that the newborn enters the world under the protection of both family and spiritual guardians. In East Africa, practices vary but share a common thread of spiritual integration. Among the Maasai, midwives, often women of extensive experience within the community, perform rituals to bless the mother, invoking ancestral guidance to shield both mother and child from harm. The midwife's presence during labor is seen as an anchor of safety and spiritual reassurance. Across Central and Southern Africa, midwives often incorporate elements of divination and spiritual counseling, interpreting signs from the environment, animals, or dreams to anticipate complications or determine auspicious moments for birth. Their knowledge is deeply localized, reflecting centuries of observation, oral transmission, and intimate interaction with the land and its spirits. What is remarkable is that in many African societies, midwives are not merely practitioners. They are intermediaries between the human and the divine. They serve as the bridge between ordinary life and the sacred dimensions of birth. This spiritual authority opens the door to the concept of goddess midwives, the divine archetypes these earthly practitioners embody or channel. The reverence for traditional midwives naturally extends to the goddesses who oversee childbirth and life, suggesting that the human and divine roles are intertwined, each reflecting and amplifying the other. In this way, the practical knowledge of midwives is inseparable from the spiritual protection they provide, offering a foundation for understanding the goddess figures who exist as ultimate guardians of life itself. By examining the vital roles midwives play across African cultures, we begin to see how the threads of practical care, ritual, and spiritual guardianship are woven together. Midwives are not only caregivers but also keepers of sacred knowledge, a role that elevates the act of birth into a profound communal and spiritual event. They demonstrate that life is not a solitary journey, but a shared experience, supported by wisdom, tradition, and ultimately the unseen presence of protective spirits. It is from this foundation that the legends of African goddess midwives emerge, reflecting humanity's enduring desire to protect and honor the miracle of life. Across the diverse landscapes of Africa, the concept of goddess midwives emerges as a powerful expression of the sacred feminine. These divine figures are often invoked during pregnancy and childbirth, embodying both nurturing and protective energies. One of the most widely recognized of these is Yemaya, venerated among the Yoruba people and throughout the African diaspora. Yemaya is often depicted as a maternal figure associated with rivers and the ocean, symbolizing life, fertility, and nurturing strength. In mythology, she is said to cradle the unborn and guide them safely into the world, her waters representing both the fluidity of birth and the continuity of life. Families call upon Yemaya not only to protect mothers during labor, but also to ensure that children grow strong, healthy, and spiritually aligned. Her presence reinforces the idea that childbirth is not merely a biological event, but a sacred passage overseen by forces greater than humanity. In West and Central African coastal regions, Mamiwata is another prominent figure intertwined with the mysteries of life and birth. Often depicted as a mermaid or water spirit, Mamiwata is associated with fertility, healing, and protection. She is believed to inhabit rivers, lakes, and seas, offering guidance and safeguarding those who seek her favor. Folktales recount how Mamiwata appears to midwives and mothers, sometimes in dreams or visions, providing crucial warnings or instructions to ensure a safe birth. Her dual nature, both alluring and formidable, reflects the delicate balance of childbirth, the vulnerability of new life, and the immense power required to protect it. Through her, communities recognize that the act of birth is not solely in human hands, but is a sacred collaboration with the divine. Other regions honor goddess figures whose protective roles are less widely known but equally significant. Among certain Central African cultures, Ninki Nanka, a serpentine water spirit, is invoked to guard children from danger, illness, or malevolent forces immediately after birth. While Ninki Nanka's form is often terrifying in folklore, this fear is symbolic, illustrating the protective vigilance required to guard life in its earlier stages. The goddess midwives, whether gentle or formidable, act as intermediaries between the human and spiritual realms, ensuring that birth is a safe threshold rather than a moment of vulnerability. These goddesses also carry deep symbolic meaning. Water, frequently associated with Yemaya, Mamiwata, and Ninki Nanka, represents the life-giving and transformative aspects of birth. Their imagery often combines nurturing maternal qualities with protective fierceness, emphasizing that safeguarding life requires both compassion and strength. In some traditions, goddess midwives are invoked not only to assist in childbirth, but also to bless the entire family, safeguarding health, fertility, and prosperity. Their presence underscores a central belief in African cosmology, that life, from its very inception, is sacred and under the guardianship of divine forces. By exploring the myths, stories, and symbolic representations of these goddess midwives, it becomes clear that they embody the ultimate guardianship of life. They are not distant deities, but intimate participants in the most vulnerable moments of human existence. Their protective roles remind communities that birth is a sacred act requiring both human skill and spiritual oversight. In doing so, they form the bridge between earthly midwives and divine intervention, illustrating that the miracle of birth is both a tangible and mystical event, watched over by spirits whose influence transcends generations. Across the African continent, the reverence for goddess midwives is expressed not only in stories but in tangible practices that weave spirituality into the very process of childbirth. Communities have developed intricate rituals to honor these divine figures, ensuring that mothers, children, and families receive protection and blessing during one of life's most vulnerable moments. These practices are as diverse as Africa's cultures, yet they share a common thread: the understanding that birth is sacred and that the divine can be called upon to safeguard life. In Yoruba communities, for instance, expectant mothers are often accompanied by offerings to Yemaya, including white cloth, water, and foods like melon seeds or honey. These offerings are placed near rivers or shrines, accompanied by prayers requesting safe delivery and the goddess's nurturing presence throughout the child's life. Among coastal West African populations, Mamiwata is honored through rituals that blend music, dance, and water-based symbolism. Pregnant women may participate in ceremonies at lakes or rivers where midwives lead chants and songs, invoking Mamiwata to envelop the mother in her protective embrace. These ceremonies often involve sprinkling water over the expectant mother or allowing her to bathe in the sacred river, symbolizing purification and spiritual preparation for childbirth. Midwives, who are themselves spiritual intermediaries, interpret visions or signs during these rituals to identify potential complications and ensure the alignment of spiritual forces. Oral histories recount that such practices were so vital that ignoring them was believed to invite misfortune or illness, reflecting the depth of trust placed in goddess-guided protection. In Central Africa, particularly among the Ba-Congo and other riverine communities, midwives perform elaborate rites to honor spirits like Ninki Nanka, seeking their vigilance over newborns. These rituals often include symbolic gestures, such as tying protective cords around the mother's waist, offering special herbs, or reciting prayers that call on ancestral spirits to stand guard. Historical records indicate that these ceremonies were sometimes accompanied by communal feasts, where elders, midwives, and families would gather to share wisdom, sing protective songs, and recount stories of goddess intervention. Such gatherings reinforced the cultural understanding that birth was a communal event observed not only by the family but by the spiritual world itself. Rituals and offerings are not limited to the moment of birth. Many communities observe postpartum ceremonies where the goddess midwives are again honored for their continued protection and guidance. For example, among the Igbo, the mother and child are presented with symbolic gifts or foods, and prayers are recited to ensure the infant's health, longevity, and spiritual alignment. These practices highlight the belief that goddess midwives are guardians not only of the act of birth, but of the child's ongoing life, emphasizing continuity, protection, and sacred care. Oral traditions recount instances where mothers credited divine intervention for safe deliveries, sometimes describing vivid dreams of goddesses guiding midwives through complications or shielding the newborn from unseen dangers. These spiritual practices demonstrate that in African cultures, birth is never treated as a purely physical event. Every ritual, offering, and prayer acknowledges the unseen forces believed to shape life, blending practicality with mysticism. By honoring goddess midwives, communities reaffirm their connection to the divine, express gratitude for life, and cultivate a sense of protection that transcends the individual, enveloping entire families and communities. The enduring presence of these rituals today, often adapted to modern contexts, speaks to the profound cultural understanding that life's beginnings are sacred, requiring not only human skill, but the vigilant care of spiritual guardians who have watched over birth for generations. In African folklore, goddess midwives occupy a unique space where mythology, morality, and life's mysteries intertwine. They are central figures in stories that have been passed down orally for generations, ensuring that their protective powers and spiritual significance remain alive in community memory. One common theme in these tales is the delicate balance between vulnerability and protection during childbirth, a time when human lives hang in the balance, and the unseen world is believed to exert its influence most directly. In many stories, the goddess midwife intervenes at the critical moment, guiding mortal midwives, calming frantic mothers, and warding off malevolent forces intent on harming the newborn or mother. Among the Yoruba, tales of Yemaya emphasize her maternal vigilance. One story recounts a mother who struggled through a dangerous labor, her cries echoing across the village. The midwife, sensing the mother's fear, invoked Yemaya, who appeared in a vision, calming the mother and instructing the midwife on how to assist the birth safely. Through this divine intervention, the child was delivered unharmed, and the mother recovered fully. The story illustrates the goddess's dual role. She is both a protective force and a teacher, guiding humans to act in ways that honor life. Conflict arises in these narratives through the inherent dangers of birth or the presence of malevolent spirits, while resolution comes through divine intervention, illustrating that the goddesses are active participants in life, not distant observers. In coastal West Africa, the mermaid-like Mamiwata often features in folklore with an enigmatic blend of allure and menace. Tales describe expectant mothers being tested by her presence in rivers or lakes, facing visions that reveal hidden dangers or potential complications. In one narrative, a young midwife is guided by Mamiwata through a vision in which she must navigate obstacles, both practical and spiritual, to bring a child safely into the world. The midwife follows the goddess's instructions, and the child is born healthy, while the community gains a renewed sense of respect for the mystical forces intertwined with human life. These stories emphasize that the goddess midwives operate at the intersection of fear and hope, using conflict to teach, protect, and ultimately restore balance. Other African cultures depict goddess midwives as guardians against supernatural threats. Among Central African communities, Ninkinanka appears in stories as a serpentine water spirit who tests the courage and skill of midwives and mothers alike. In folklore, a mother in labor encounters unseen forces threatening the newborn's life. Through prayers, offerings, and the midwife's guidance, Ninkinanka is appeased and the danger passes. These narratives combine suspense with reassurance, emphasizing the goddess's vigilance and the effectiveness of human spiritual collaboration. Conflict is not merely physical but also moral and spiritual, highlighting the high stakes of birth and the necessity of divine guardianship. The storytelling tradition surrounding goddess midwives often includes repetition, song, and ritualized performance, ensuring that each generation internalizes the lessons of protection, courage, and reverence for life. Oral narratives are crafted to emphasize tension and resolution, with midwives and goddesses working together to overcome adversity, guiding communities toward a deeper understanding of birth as a sacred event. In these stories, the goddesses are never passive. They respond to danger, provide guidance, and reward respect and adherence to spiritual practice, reinforcing the cultural and moral frameworks surrounding childbirth. Through folklore, goddess midwives remain living forces in the imagination of communities, connecting the human experience of birth with the eternal vigilance of divine protectors. The reverence for African goddess midwives has not faded with time. Rather, it has adapted, evolving into new forms while retaining its core essence of protection, nurturing, and spiritual guidance. Across Africa and the African diaspora, the belief in these divine figures continues to influence childbirth practices, spiritual rituals, and cultural identity. In many modern African communities, midwives still honor goddesses like Yemaya and Mami Wata, incorporating offerings, prayers, and ritual gestures into births in hospitals or at home. Even in urban centers where medical technology dominates, families maintain shrines, recite invocations, or hold small ceremonies before and after childbirth, bridging ancestral spirituality with contemporary practices. This persistence underscores a profound cultural understanding that despite advances in medicine, the unseen spiritual dimension of birth remains relevant, providing comfort, reassurance, and protection. In the African diaspora, goddess midwives have taken on new dimensions, influencing religious and spiritual traditions in the Americas, the Caribbean, and Europe. In regions influenced by Yoruba, Fon, and other West African cultures, Orisha-based religions such as Candomblé in Brazil, Santeria in Cuba, and Voodoo in Haiti continue to venerate female spirits associated with fertility, childbirth, and motherhood. Yemaya, often syncretized with Catholic figures like the Virgin Mary, remains central to rituals surrounding family, pregnancy, and children. Devotees may offer seashells, water, or white flowers, recite prayers, and sing songs invoking her protection, blending African traditional religion with diasporic cultural identity. These practices illustrate how goddess midwives maintain spiritual relevance, guiding modern families through both physical and metaphysical aspects of birth, and ensuring the continuity of ancestral wisdom across continents. Beyond traditional and diasporic practices, the influence of goddess midwives has also reached contemporary spiritual movements, including New Age and feminist spiritual communities. Many practitioners draw inspiration from the symbolism of goddesses like Mami Wata, interpreting her as a figure of empowerment, self-healing, and divine feminine energy. Workshops, meditation practices, and online spiritual communities explore these deities as archetypes of nurturing strength and protection, emphasizing the sacredness of life transitions, including birth. Even outside explicitly African religious contexts, these goddess figures are invoked to symbolize guidance, fertility, and the transformative power inherent in creation, showing that their resonance extends far beyond their historical origins. This modern reinterpretation highlights a broader cultural shift toward acknowledging feminine spiritual authority and the integration of ancestral wisdom into personal and communal well-being. In healthcare and midwifery education, there is also growing recognition of the psychological and cultural benefits of spiritual support during childbirth. Modern midwives in Africa and the diaspora sometimes incorporate elements inspired by goddess midwives into their care, using rituals, affirmations, and culturally meaningful practices to ease anxiety and reinforce positive outcomes for mothers and infants. Stories of divine guardianship are shared to instill confidence, and the symbolic presence of these deities is treated as a source of comfort and empowerment. In this way, ancient traditions continue to provide guidance, blending seamlessly with scientific knowledge to support holistic approaches to maternal care. Ultimately, the modern influence of African Goddess Midwives illustrates their enduring spiritual relevance. They are more than mythological figures. They are living symbols of protection, guidance, and the sanctity of life. Across continents, cultural contexts, and spiritual movements, they continue to shape how communities understand birth, motherhood, and the sacred feminine. By bridging ancestral practices with contemporary life, goddess midwives maintain their role as guardians of life, reminding humanity that birth is both a physical and spiritual journey, watched over by forces that transcend time, geography, and culture. Throughout history, African goddess midwives have occupied a unique and sacred space, bridging the tangible world of human birth with the unseen realm of divine guardianship. From traditional communities across Africa to diasporic cultures spanning the globe, these goddesses have served as protectors, guides, and symbols of life's miraculous beginning. We have explored how practical midwifery intertwined with spiritual oversight, revealing that childbirth was never merely a physical event but a deeply communal and mystical experience. Midwives, both mortal and divine, were entrusted with ensuring safety, health, and the smooth passage of new life, guided by rituals, prayers, and offerings that honored the sacredness of creation. We've delved into the goddesses themselves, Yemaya, Mamiwata, Ninkinanka, among others, whose stories illuminate the delicate balance between conflict, danger, and protection. These divine figures embody the nurturing yet formidable aspects of life, reminding communities that birth carries both vulnerability and immense potential. Through folklore, oral traditions, and historical anecdotes, we've seen how goddess midwives not only safeguarded mothers and newborns, but also reinforced moral, spiritual, and cultural frameworks that guided daily life. Their presence is a testament to the enduring human desire to seek protection and blessing in moments of profound transition. The legacy of these goddesses extends far beyond ancient rituals. Today, their influence persists in African diasporic spiritual practices, New Age interpretations, and modern midwifery approaches that integrate cultural understanding with holistic care. Across continents, these figures inspire reverence, empowerment, and connection to the sacred feminine, highlighting the ongoing relevance of ancestral wisdom in contemporary life. The practices, stories, and symbols of goddess midwives remind us that birth is not only a biological event, but a spiritual journey that demands respect, care, and attention to unseen forces that nurture life. As we reflect on their sacred role, it becomes clear that African goddess midwives do more than watch over birth. They honor the profound gift of life itself. They teach us that protection, guidance, and love are inseparable from the act of bringing new life into the world. By understanding and celebrating these figures, we gain not only historical insight, but also a renewed appreciation for the mysteries and miracles surrounding birth. To continue exploring stories that bridge the mystical and the real, dive deeper into the world of divine protectors, spiritual guardians, and the sacred feminine. Make sure to subscribe, like, and follow along as we uncover more extraordinary tales that connect past, present, and the unseen threads guiding our lives.